true to what you said on paper.
Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio today, live. We are live. It's the eve before the election here in the city of Boston. So if you have any political issues, or if you don't know where you need to vote next week, you need to be checking the City Hall website. I know early voting has ended here in the city of Boston, so you've missed out on that, but it didn't seem like there was much enthusiasm for that anyways. And I know they had mail-in voting, so if you're planning on putting your vote in the mail today, you probably don't want to do that because it probably won't get there in time to be counted. So I know they have drop boxes that are still available, and the primary election for the city elections is Tuesday, September 9th. That's this Tuesday, September 9th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I want to see as many people out for that as we saw for the new edition unveiling of the signs there. You know, so we have to start taking things more serious. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, the Money Store, for all your mortgage needs. Get branch manager Cora Holbrook or call at area code 508-345-4726. That's 508-345-4726. Again, you're listening at the Roundtable with MAMLEO. Call in number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. And we are happy to welcome our guest to the broadcast this morning, Rachel Nicole Meiselman.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And interesting that she is running for at-large city councilor here in the city of Boston, the candidate, as a Republican.
Yes.
Okay. So now, how does that work in this? Because is everyone grouped together in these 11 people that have made the ballot, or is there a separate side for the Republican?
That's an excellent question, and I think that in the push right before Election Day, I'm just going to really heavily be explaining to people what it all means, because there are people who are very intelligent, very well informed, yet they have questions, key questions, and that's because I feel like there's been a lot of misinformation. So the Boston City Council race is a nonpartisan one. And so that means that regardless of the candidate's party affiliation or non-affiliation, a candidate could be unenrolled, which is known, colloquially as independent. It doesn't matter, right? And anyone, regardless of his or her party affiliation or non-affiliation, can vote for you as long as that voter resides in Boston.
Okay. So let's just back up a second here. Like I said, Rachel Nicole Meiselman. Tell folks a little bit about you, who you are, your background, and why you decided to run for at-large city council here in the city of Boston.
Well, first of all, I have to thank you, Larry, so much for having me on. I think that it was very much a magnanimous gesture because I joke, it's not easy being wheezy. It's not easy running as a Republican, even for a nonpartisan office. I am someone who has really kind of spent her life trying to help other people in one way or the other. I've always prided myself on having a lot of empathy, and I think I've always rooted for the underdog. And I think at a young age I became very interested in politics, but I always contented myself to be in the background and listening and observing, which we don't have a lot of anymore. Most people privilege speaking, but I feel like the more you speak, the less you learn, right? So I've been involved with public service, political activity for a long, long time. But as I saw the numbers of underdogs grow, I said, you know what, I think I need to kind of make my way to the front. I need to move toward the front. I went to Boston Latin School, and I think that was, for me, very much a pivotal key experience, because it inculcated in me the idea of community, the idea of giving back, and the idea of excellence. And we can all achieve that, but we have to give back. We have to give back and help one another. And if one person succeeds, then we can all succeed. So it was a very special place, and it kind of shaped the lens through which I looked, or have looked through through at the world. After Latin school, I put myself through Harvard, and then a few years later, I put myself through law school, University of Leeds, and the current British Prime Minister, Starmer, he also studied law at the University of Leeds. And then I finished my legal studies. I chose to be a barrister. And that is, the lines have been blurred between a barrister and a solicitor over the years. But what appealed to me about being a barrister is that you were an advocate. Whereas the solicitor, you have a lot of contact, and one could argue maybe the most contact with the client. But you're doing contracts, you're doing things of that nature. Whereas the barrister, particularly at the time when I was training to become one, was really very much an advocate and amplified the voice and presented the voice of the client. So
of the voiceless.
Yes.
So first, it's not impossible for a Republican to be elected. We've had numerous Republican governors here in the Commonwealth. We have very few Republicans at the State House, and I don't recall many, if any, Republicans at City Council. But your resume seems very impressive. That you're definitely someone who is educated enough to be, and I think that's what's been lacking, honestly, the lack of knowledge at the council. And so people who don't understand or haven't researched the position that they seek tend to be followers rather than leaders in the council. And that, to me, seems like what the current administration is looking for, people who will just rubber stamp. And that's not why you're elected as a city councilor.
I can't do that. And some people say, well, it's because you're a Republican, you support Trump. You know what? Trump could be the mayor of Boston, and I would still not be a rubber stamp for Trump. Let me be clear. I believe in good government, and I believe in the system of checks and balances. I find it tremendously, deliciously ironic that people say, no kings, and they say things along the lines of
no queens either.
No queens either, right. But no royalty.
Right.
We got rid of that, and on the city council there was some concern about an overreach on federal level, that Trump was overreaching the power of the executive office, and it's not that I don't expect members of the Boston City Council to have opinions about what's going on at federal level. Of course, just as people, never mind, being an elected official, municipal level, of course you're going to have ideas and opinions. And what happens on municipal level doesn't happen in a vacuum. Right? However, I feel that the nuts and bolts aren't being addressed. And I think that some of us have been, sadly, we've become accustomed to the political fare that's been shoved at us, and I think that we need much different, and we need much better.
So at large councilors represent the whole city.
Correct.
You have clue.
And please forgive me, Larry. I also include the islands too, that the city has some ownership in, because we need to keep an eye on what happens out there. And the city definitely, the mainland, if I can phrase it like that, benefits from these islands. So in one way or another. So I also try to make it my business to know what's going on in the Boston Harbor, those islands.
Okay. So what would be your platform, your agenda, issues that you feel need to be tackled at the city council? Because there are a litany of them. There's a long laundry list. But what would be your priorities if you were elected at the council at large? Because now you're representing the whole city, including the islands. what would be in preference of order, if there is one, for you to address because those issues for the listening audience on where they can support?
Right. So I would say that I have 3 pillars upon which my platform rests. Okay. First and foremost, I have to say, and it kind of, look, I like the members of the council. You know, I get along with most of them. I know them. I've interacted with them. But I do feel, and sometimes it does, maybe I shouldn't say anger, irk me.
Well, I think I know where you're going there because I feel the same way. I think people feel like challenging or holding accountable means you don't like an individual.
Thank you.
And that is not the case, because then I just have to be quiet with most of the people in my life, because I think we're better when we're challenged and not confrontationally. But if you're elected to deal with issues and then you make me feel like I'm bothering you for bringing them to you, we have a problem. But it's not a personal problem because we're not friends in that way, but this is your job.
Well, exactly. And I don't want to drop names, so I'll make it broad, make it a broad comment. I mean, there's one elected official, and I'll play the pronoun game, he, she, so nobody out there at home can guess, right. Trying to be diplomatic and tactful here. But the idea that I would ask a question of this person is just, well, how dare you?
Right.
And if I push, then I'm trying to be, I'm trying to be difficult, or it's personal, and I say, well, wait a minute, look, like you said, I'll use your phrase. I don't know you like that. Right. And quite honestly, I'm not interested in that. And that's not good or bad. It's not saying one thing one way or the other. What it's simply saying is, you applied for this job. You got it. God bless. But I have some questions.
Right. No, I mean, this is I'm going to grab some of these calls here. I was a former police officer. I wish
God bless you.
Thank you. I wish there were days when I could say, I've been here numerous times. I'm not going anymore. It's not an option. That's what I signed up for. And I think elected officials feel like somehow they're privileged that you're bothering 100%. Them, that they don't have to. Let's go. Michelle, good morning. Welcome back to the round table. Our co-host, Michelle Ferguson. Good morning. How are you, Michelle?
I had to call up.
Okay.
So one, I just want to thank you. I know we had a conversation a previous week, and just the fact that you're on the call today definitely shows that you guys are paying attention, which is great. I know running for political office is never an easy job, but I do agree with the statement that it's nice to have an open conversation without feeling like you're bothering someone when you have that conversation. It's pretty record to have a Republican as the Boston City Council at large, and I would like to know what are some of your values, and also where are you from?
Well, first of all, thank you for the respect. Thank you for the civility. I would say my values, the reason why I'm a Republican, because let me tell you, being in a deep blue city, there are not a whole lot of advantages. And certainly in this race, I've been completely left out of some conversations, which is wrong, because no one group, no one person has the right to determine who the political choices are for everybody else.
Right, but let me just jump in for a second, because that's not just, sadly, it shouldn't be in either case, right? Because we've had people who are Democrats, right? People like Domingo DeRosa and others who, 100%. Because they didn't meet a benchmark financially, or they didn't meet a benchmark in some other way, that they are not qualified. So is this about money, or is it about ideas?
Well, I will definitely speak to that, because I have plenty to say to that too. So again, Michelle, to speak to your wonderful question, my values are that we ourselves know best how our lives should run, how they should function. Now, obviously, we have to respect rules and societal norms. But what I'm trying to say is that government has a role. And sometimes I think it's necessary for government to have an expanded role. But if that expanded role is going to be for an extended period of time, then we need to know specifics, right? I think that America is a unique, some people would still refer to it as an experiment, and I don't find that offensive, but it's unique in that we have allegiance to a piece of paper at the end of the day, but it's this beautiful, wonderful piece of paper, the U.S. Constitution, and it allows for us to have a bevy of critical freedoms. And so for me, I enjoy those freedoms to the fullest. But with that, I understand comes personal responsibility, right? Because if I'm going to have freedoms, then I have responsibilities, and I have to acknowledge that other people have freedoms too. And I also think that a lot of answers come from the people, the community, rather than the government. And I feel like the government, I believe, that's a stronger word. I believe that the government is here for the people. And it's a matter of managing our resources and trying to preserve, at the very least, our resources, and ideally diversify them and expand them.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, hold on. Stand by, because I don't want to lose you. I want to bring this other caller in. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable. You have a comment or question for a guest?
Good morning. I have both a comment and a question. And for someone like Michelle, who's the current mayor, she thinks she knows best for people like us who live in the city. For example, the bike lanes. And for someone who takes the T and especially walks a lot throughout the city, I can tell you for a fact, almost nobody uses the bike lanes. And when they do use the bike lanes, it's either one or two people, period, in those lanes. I can vouch for that.
Well, let me just say that, just when because you made me think about, I see more people's bikes on the front of the buses driving because they're afraid to go, than I do them on them, right? Because I'm all like, why are you putting your bike on the front of the bus to take you where you're going if you have the bus come, but they're afraid to ride their bikes in a bike lane. But go ahead, I'm sorry, this made me think about that for a second. And what was the second part?
And I have questions. My question is, since Boston buying a house here, it costs $1 million and up, how are you going to convince someone like I to stay here, even though Boston, a lot of politicians, including the mayor, doesn't want to leave out what she does leave out this is simple, common fact that Boston is one of the most expensive cities to live in the country. How are you going to lower the price, or at least try to lower the price for people like me to buy a home who's low income to stay here? Because right now I feel like I gotta leave Boston. My second question is, on the state side, because you need cooperation for both the city and the state, on the T, are you going to vouch for or help people who take the T a lot, because the T is very expensive, in making sure that the T can be up and running and efficient as other T's and other public transits around the country? And my third question is, will you get cooperation, not compromise, because it's two different things, within your other federal city councilmen if you get elected?
Well, let me, before she answers those questions, those litmus of questions, I think you also need to connect with Michelle, because I know she's a realtor and she probably could help you in that area. So we definitely want to get you connected to her, and I'll let her weigh in after our guest on the realtor side of this, because there's no one better in the business than she is on that. So first, I'll let you tackle the questions that he.
Yeah. So thank you. You came prepared with those questions,
and some of the best.
Yes, and I think they're all excellent ones. And so I might have to ask you for a little assistance here, just so I can remember everything, and I want to make sure I answer everything appropriately.
Well, one of them was the T on the expansion of that. The other thing too, and I know he gave you a lot, but I just want to add to this: would you, in the council, because now we're looking at some really difficult financial situations, right? We're raising property taxes, but we're still offering free rides on the T. And if everyone has to have some skin in the game, the city is paying for those. It's not a free ride. It's being supplemented by the taxpayers here in the city of Boston. Would you consider reevaluating whether we should be continuing to pay for bus services throughout the city? I know it's a benefit, but when you can afford it, but we can't afford it now.
All right. So let me just start. I'll respond to your comment because I think that deserves an answer as well. It goes back to, you, all of us, we know best what works for us. I think that riding a bicycle is a wonderful idea, but I think that for the city of Boston, and I've said this many times, I think that it's not necessarily the best fit. I think depending on where you live and where you work, or where you live and where you need to go, I think it can be a feasible option for the most part, most of the year. But I think that on the whole, there's been this massive push for bicycles, yet there's no equal push to implement a bike culture. And so I've lived in other places where there is a bike culture. So people use bikes, but there's also an understanding that we all share the road and there has to be respect. I think that the paradigm is, the Netherlands. The Netherlands has an incredible bike culture. But we can't push bike lanes if we don't have a bike culture, if we don't have an understanding of how we're supposed to share the road. And you're absolutely right. A lot of people do not use the bike lanes. They use the sidewalks. And as someone who doesn't drive, I'm most of the time, on my 2 feet, and it's become suddenly dangerous at times to move around. To the talk about affordability, I would actively look at different ways that we can. I mean, as our council, I'm not trying to punk out of the question because affordable housing is a big one for me. Housing has been something that I've long worked on, and we see people now, and the focus is so much on people staying in their homes, whether they rent or own, that we're not even paying attention to the quality of those homes. We see grown children doubling up in a bedroom with their adult parent because it's just and it's not a one bedroom either. They'll have multiple roommates, so it's a very serious issue. I would actively try to explore a number of different ways that would allow home ownership to be affordable. And I would look at cities with equivalent sizes and expenses.
So one of those being, the mayor just increased the property taxes here close to 38% with the recent increase in property taxes.
Sure.
Would you consider rolling that, with the council rolling that back? That would be a way of relieving some of that pressure off of homeowners, because that just compounded the problem of trying to purchase a home.
100%.
That gets factored into
the rent.
Not just the rent, but the mortgage.
The mortgage. The mortgage.
That's part
the
of
rent.
the escrow. So now you get an increase from your bank or your mortgage company that we've got to take another $200 a month from you because the property taxes in your town have gone up.
Yeah, look, Larry, I'm not running for the Boston City Council for an at-large seat on the Boston City Council to add balance, and I'm not trying to have a swipe at somebody, but we need more than balance at this point. We need to shake things up. And there needs to be a stern reminder sent out to the political class, that the Boston City Council has muscle too, and that it is not an extension of the mayor. And I will remind people that the mayor could be Republican, it could be Donald Trump. I don't care. So I would definitely look for that. But let me just say something else. I think one of the ways that I am different from, because there are actually 10 of us on the ballot, but there is one write-in candidate. Okay. So I want to be respectful of everybody. We have everyone out here trying to hustle, right? So we have 11 candidates in all, 10 of whom are on the ballot, and I'm one of the people on the ballot. I want to look for ways to generate revenue. All right. You know, the Boston City Council, one of its biggest responsibilities is to debate the budget, to allocate monies. And it's amazing to me that over the years, some councilors think that they're really cooking with gas when they're inviting the public in to, you know, offer, you know, suggestions as to where the money can go. And I say to myself, well, wait a minute, this is our money. Like, you're not doing me any favors, and you represent me. Like, what is this? But, you know, think about it on a personal level. Budgets aren't just something that we say, okay, this is how much money I have for this and that, this particular month, this particular period. We also look for ways to grow the resources that we have. We also look for ways to generate revenue. And I think we should have that on the council.
Well, one of the things that...
And that's what I would do.
Right, need to be put on there as well as how we cut, because I think there's a lot of waste that goes on.
100%.
I mean, and one of the starting points that I would look at as a council is this the Boston Public Schools, which is the highest. It's 33% of the budget is the Boston Public, $1.4 billion. And I know that you can't tell me that $1.4 billion, there's nothing that could be trimmed there as a savings, rather than just every time we want to keep everything the way it is, raising taxes. Dick, did you get all your questions answered before we let you go?
I do want to say, speak to the T. So I actually take the T. I never learned how to drive. Okay. So I never learned how to drive, so I would definitely have a lot to say about the T, the conditions of the stations, the timeliness, you know, the accessibility, the affordability. And I will say this, in 2019, Michael Flaherty, you know, I've had people say, well, you know so much about the city. Well, you know what? It's because I sat back and watched people like Michael Flaherty, or I shouldn't even say people like Michael Flaherty, because he's kind of in a class of his own. But I sat back, watched Michael Flaherty, and he wasn't about bringing the noise or the spotlights or the press releases, the nee-nee-nees, the nee-nee-nas. He was about ideas, understood the purview of the office in getting things done. So in 2019, Michael Flaherty said that because Boston has such a big stake in the T, that someone should be on the board, like, you know, to represent Boston's interests. Well, now we have that. But my concern, and I say this with the utmost respect, is that this position, like so many others, has turned into, it's not what you know, it's not even who you know, but it's who knows you. Right. And I don't know how much this individual, who now is supposed to represent the interests of Boston on the MBTA board, how much she's actually getting around to the whole city.
Got it. Okay, I want to move on because I know there's other questions that may be coming in.
Sure.
Dicko, thank you. Appreciate you always coming up with some great questions and comments for our guests. Appreciate it. And I hope if you haven't voted, make sure you get out there and do so. You know, the only thing I say is, you said you don't drive. You never learned to drive. Instead of running for at large, you should have run for mayor. It comes with a driver.
Well, you know.
Thank you. 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. Michelle, you still there? I want to get your feedback on
I am still holding.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to weigh in. Mm-hmm. So in regards to the bike lane, I know that bike lane was put out throughout multiple cities. They suffered the same in Cambridge because the bike lane was implemented. I know it was done during COVID, so I felt like even though a lot of businesses were hit because their parking was taken as a result of it, I felt like it was one of those things that was done because of COVID, and it'd be nice to have it pulled back a little because so many people are not interested in them. In regards to the T, I feel like that's a state-run entity, and I like what you guys said about having someone on that board to weigh in. I think there is Michael Flaherty is a legend in the city.
Sure
I think there is a need for more Bostonians to be in some of these positions. And the reason why I say that is because Bostonians have a certain feel about the city. We really care about the people here. And not to say that people who aren't Bostonians don't, because a number of them do.
Right.
But to have someone who's from the city who has some skin in the game is,
Not
I
for
think, it's
nothing.
really important.
Right. But I think also to that point, Michelle, because we time is that a lot of times
it leads me back to you telling us where you're from.
Right. No, exactly. But a lot of times what we find is, and I see that in the Trump administration, right? Well, we're putting in loyalty people rather than competent people, and it's no different here, right? Where we're putting in people who are friends or whatever, and sometimes the person might be the best fit. You may not know them at all, but you're basing it on their skill set and their ability to get the job done, because that really should be the priority for the taxpayers, is having the best competent people, because this is where we end up with this waste and abuse, is because people don't know what they're doing. We see a lot of that in the
I'll tell you what I base it on, right? I base it on their ability to take the hits and still be determined and steadfast.
Yeah. Michelle,
when we elect people, I'm sorry, when we elect people, I'm electing them based off of what they told me while they're campaigning.
Sure.
And I want to see when tough times get tough, because I know you're going to face opposition from the other side. I know you're going to go up against some challenges trying to do your job. I know that.
Yep.
Right? I want to see if you're steadfast when that happens, not if, when it happens.
Right, but I don't think just being argumentative or pushing back because in a way that was more theater, because there are a lot of issues that are legitimate to be called out on. Like, and to me, a big part is, like I said, the cost. You're a realtor, Michelle. The cost of a house in Boston is not affordable to most who live here, and a lot of folks have been pushed out. The education here in the city of Boston. There was just a huge meeting the other day down at Mass and Cass. They couldn't even get enough people. Everyone that wanted to go.
I was there, and I want to say a few things. I will hold steadfast. There's been a lot of pressure on me to leave the party. I will be frank. In years past, I fully respect the current chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, Amy Carnevale. She's a good person who tries to do her very best. She's trying to grow the party. But in years past, I have not always been on the same page as the party, and I held the line. And it's not easy, but you've got to do it.
I think that's why you're seeing more people like myself register as independent, because both parties have let us down, and then there's this silo, this isolationist. You know what? You can't have a conversation with anyone else that's not in the party, or if you're in disagreement with them, then you're wrong and they're right, and that makes no sense.
But I have to say something. So, there's been also a push coming from like some Democrats that are part of the political machine. And I have to pick a side.
No, that's what I said. It's both sides.
But if I could just finish, it's like, are you going to back the self-styled, moderates, conservatives, or the self-styled progressives? And it's like, I'm backing the people, right? So I don't care. Like, I have friends throughout the spectrum in the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, people who are unenrolled, third party.
Right, but I'm going to grab this other call in 1 second. But I would say to that point, though, if I'm looking at it from someone here in Massachusetts at the Republican Party, I'm looking at it from the national lens. You've just described what's happening in the Republican Party. There's no independence. There's no separation between MAGA.
It's in politics, period.
No, exactly.
It's a duopoly.
No one has a monopoly on it. It's both parties, and that's why people on both sides, if you're in whatever party, are frustrated with both. That's why folks like myself are independent voters, because I don't have a blind loyalty to any party. And I want someone who's going to do the job.
I do want to mention something, though, that you said about Domingos de Rosa. And so I'll speak to that really quickly. And I appreciate that he has, kind of...
He was on this broadcast last week.
Right. No, he's been sidelined, and I think that that's terrible. Still, he has received a certain amount of coverage. And what I found interesting, and this isn't a ding at Domingos, because I know Domingos, I like Domingos, I respect Domingos. This is a ding at the game, And it's not just the politicians who play it, but it's also the media.
Absolutely.
So he was talking about, issues around cooperation between law enforcement, because I went back, I watched clips, I read articles, I talked to different people, cooperation on the local law enforcement with ICE. And he was talking about other issues, and the positions that he was taking, I've taken. And someone said, well, he's had that for a long time. And it's like, well, respectfully, I'm a Republican. I've had those positions for a long time, and I have put myself out there, and I've gotten, even in this race, I've gotten slammed. And so what you do is you just remain calm, and you just try to talk it through. But my thing is, if Domingos is getting praise for taking those positions, and he's shining, then why can't I get coverage?
Well, like I said,
saying.
No, we have tunnel vision. Let's bring this caller. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning, Larry. This is Cliff. Long time.
I know. Hey, Cliff, how are you? It's been a while. Yes.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I like to talk to Miss Rachel.
Yeah.
What do you think about immigration? Like, what do you think about people in the city that I know that are friends of mine that are from other countries that are scared to even work or go out to grocery stores and something like that because the fear of ICE coming here scares us, and it scares me because I'm from Honduras. So it's like I have to carry like documentation around.
Like Nazi Germany, your papers, please, right? I mean,
right.
Uh-huh.
So what can you assure me that? What can you assure that the registered voters in this city? What can you assure us that we'll be safe from ICE terrorism?
Okay, so first of all, it's not terrorism. I would gently push back, and just hear me out, Cliff. Those were excellent questions, and they're legitimate, valid concerns. And I would say that I am not a performer. I'm not even a politician. I'm a public servant, and I'm looking to serve the people in a different capacity. That is, this time around, to hold office. I am very, I don't want to say very upset, but I'll measure my language. I'm disappointed in some elected officials because they have done everything that they can to ratchet up the volume, and they use certain lexicon, and they, the
when you
tone
say
of voice.
certain, who are you referring to? Because no one does it more than Donald Trump. This is all performance. This is all theater, in my opinion. Right?
And that's fine, but
let me just say this, because I think that as a person of color, as a black man, and understand the history of this country, there was no immigration when they could bring as many of us over here on a ship and work us for free, right? And when we look at the history, like places like California and Texas, those were taken from Mexico, right? And when we look at now, we're not talking about bringing them into cities and communities that are not of color, so this is intentional, and this is targeted, and it is terrorism, in my opinion, because
and that's fine. But he asked me a question.
No,
I do want to answer.
No, I'm gonna let you answer,
yeah.
but I just feel like if we're gonna have this conversation, that is part of it, that people feel terrorized. You may not see it that way.
Oh, I didn't say I didn't see them not feeling terrorized.
But your response was, you said you don't see it as terrorism.
No, I don't see.
Go ahead, I'll let you finish. But
please,
I just wanted to.
I mean,
no. This is a conversation.
No, and
right?
I get
so
that.
We're going to have a back and forth.
Sure.
And we can disagree respectfully.
Right.
Well, okay.
So but I do want to answer
Sure.
the question. I don't see it as terrorism insofar as that's not what's being done. The reason why I talked about elected officials on municipal level, state level, and even federal level, I think they're being horribly irresponsible with their rhetoric. I think that there is a gross abuse of the language. I think that it's important to describe accurately what an immigrant is. So an immigrant, of course, is a naturalized U.S. citizen. It's a permanent resident, and it's someone that has been granted asylum status, whether that person be a refugee or asylee. And I believe that there's another group that if they've come here like before maybe 2009. Depending on how they came over, then they fall into that category too. But the general categories are naturalized U.S. citizen, permanent resident, and someone who's been granted asylum status.
But
Then
can
we-
I weigh in?
Yeah,
when
so
you're
go ahead.
done?
Yeah,
Just a
sure.
little bit?
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, I want to let her finish first, and then I'll
oh.
weigh
Oh,
in.
yeah, no, I appreciate that.
No.
And then we have aliens, and I know a lot of people don't like that term, but that is the legal term. So we have legal aliens and we have illegal aliens, and this is aimed at illegal aliens. Now, I happen to work with people who are here, maybe whether it's on a student visa, they're here with someone who he is here on a work visa. That has been largely my bread and butter for a great number of years, working with legal aliens. I fully support the rights of immigrants because, I mean, I just enumerated what immigrants are. And when we're talking about legal aliens, they deserve respect too, and they're entitled to, you know, a certain amount of rights. Obviously, nowhere near like, you know, an actual citizen or permanent resident.
Okay.
But I
Just
do
for
want.
the sake of time, because I want to,
just cut in the wind,
yeah,
because it's a
because I
long
want to give you
wind.
time to. Yeah.
I just want to say that I think it's important how you do things, and it wasn't just illegal aliens who were taken away by ICE. It was, and I feel like most Bostonians are kind of stuck in the middle on this one, because on one side we have a group of people who are coming here, they're pulling the resources, they're sometimes abusing those resources, and they're making natural Bostonians who own properties feel like, okay, I'm kind of stuck right now. And then on the other hand, we have excellent, outstanding people who are working regular jobs, who may not have obtained their citizenship as of yet, but who are doing the right thing within our communities. And I think what he's trying to touch on is the fact that ICE came and just took everybody.
Okay,
and that was hard for people to get behind,
and I
because
get that.
of the way it was done.
I get that, but we're talking about people who are here. It sounds like you're talking about people who are here illegally, and that has been really, quite frankly, the main target. I myself, you know, I mean, respectfully, I appreciate that my answer is a little involved, but it won't do to just say yes, no, knee-jerk answers, especially when some emotions are particularly high.
I think if it's criminal activity, then yes. But if it's not criminal activity, don't. I use this this expression with reluctancy, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right. So stand by, Michelle, folks. I want to and Cliff, hold on for a second, because we have some comments we want to get involved in this conversation.
Sure.
So Michelle says, what can be done about it, right? She says, what can be done about the mess on Cummings Highway for the past 2 years? She further says, property taxes are outrageous. But the clip actually says, what about our schools? And schools are in shambles. He says, our kids are not getting the proper education there is.
Do we have 5 hours in the show?
We've got about 10 minutes left. That's why I'm not trying to interrupt, but just to move it along for you.
Right, and I understand. And let me just, if I could, Pastor.
There were more, but go ahead.
No.
Well, I just want to say,
ahead.
if anyone, you know, I can provide information, and I'm even willing to meet with people if they have further questions.
Because I'm going to give you those last few minutes to do that at the end. That's
Sure.
why I want to move this along. Go ahead, finish those, and then if you want to respond to some of those, you'd be more than welcome.
Okay, so Michelle says, I don't vote Republican. I believe a vote for Republican is a vote for Trump.
I'm having trouble hearing him.
Okay, I'll try to speak up. I'm trying to read. I'm trying to multitask. Bear with me here. I don't have glasses on, so no, hold on. Let me try to do this the best way that I can. I don't know if those will
Still
work.
amazing.
Let's see. You're kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Thank you. That does help. It says, all theater with him. Of course, you would say illegal aliens, but you don't. But you do not know. But you know that that's not true, because Trump goes after everyone. Nardello says, I would say that in all the views I've seen, ICE has not deported one European illegal immigrant. And they are out in plain sight, may not be involved with illegal activity, but they are visible. Thank you, Rachel, for coming on MAMLEO. Please share your thoughts about White Stadium.
Okay. I do need to say another couple words about, for me, I don't care what shade you are. I don't care where you come from. If you're here illegally, you shouldn't be. And for the idea that there are some people who do not have, they did not go through the proper channels and they're working hard, what I would gently push back and respectfully push back and say that there are people who did go through the proper channels and they work immensely hard too. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's fair to have a two-tier immigrant system. White Stadium.
Well, let me just, before you answer that, because I am former law enforcement, and it's not from you always. I totally agree. I'm all about law and order. Where I
you always
right.
Yeah,
where I draw the distinction is like some of our callers and some of their messaging there is that it's only a certain segment that is being targeted for. I agree that no one should cut. Like imagine when you go. I use the analogy: if I go to the grocery store and I'm in the line and I've got 2 items and I'm in the 10 items or less, and someone in front of me has a shopping cart, and I'm like, no, this isn't the line you're supposed to be in. You're supposed to be down there. That's the reason why this is set up. So the people that pay the money to go through the immigration process the right way, and someone else cuts in line, I'm not in agreeable with that. But when you start the enforcement, and you're only targeting a segment of it, and it's so obvious to people what you're doing. It's transparent that it's only certain people, certain communities, because Irish people, Italians, they go to the Home Depot as well, but they're only going to the Home Depot looking for people who they think, and they've said it. We look at people how they speak, right, in this country, right? If they have an accent, you could be born in this country and have an accent. That's the problem. That's where I take issue with how the enforcement is being.
What I would say is if we have problems with enforcement, then let's talk about that. But then I just saw a common ground that, we can't have people cut in line.
Absolutely. And most people are in that column.
And I do need to emphasize this. My bread and butter has been working with, for a lot of my adult life, has been working with legal aliens. Mm-hmm. I have had foreign-born bosses who are immigrants, Italy, Brazil, Korea, China. So, and then I lived as a foreigner myself for almost a decade. And let me tell you something, when I had to come home, because my visa could not be renewed, I had not yet found a job after graduating. I came home.
No, and I'm not saying that people should circumvent the law, because again, I'm a law and order person.
Sure.
So that's not the issue, but I see what's happening. I can't put a blinder on and say, well, folks are here. There are folks here illegally, and there is a process, but also historically, as a law enforcement, when the federal government was working here in the city, there was a cooperation. We would communicate with each other. This coming in blind, that's all theater. So we'll get, because we could go all day with that.
Respectfully too, right. I think Mayor Wu could play a role in toning down the rhetoric.
I think everyone can. So we agree. Again, we agree. But the White Stadium issue, there's a lot of money spent on that. The city has spent over $100 million, and it doesn't even seem like the project has been funded. So now we have a big hole in the ground that will maybe be sitting there for eternity.
And I hope not. I think, and I'm saying this as respectfully as I could, when I, so I'll make this quick, when I speak to an issue, I'm not just hopping on it like ticks on a dog, right? Mm-hmm. For political expediency. White Stadium, my family and I spent part of my childhood not far from it, not too far from it. Certainly the Meiselman family, growing up on, Kerwin, around Nightingale, that area, not too far from it. Listen, there's been a tremendous debate, and the debate isn't whether or not it should be rehabbed, and it should not be framed as such. We can all agree, we should all be able to agree that it shouldn't be rehabbed, right?
Right.
But how is that going to look? And if it is going to be a public partnership, by all means, but it's got to benefit the people. This belongs to the people.
Right. Just because of time, I want to give you a closing. That's why I want to save a few minutes for you. Cliff, did that answer your question that you had? I want to make sure that you got what you needed addressed.
Yeah, that answers my question. But no, I know we're short of time, but they're still rounding up people who do it the right way. Like if my parents are from Honduras and I'm from Honduras, but my brother's American, that means if we all get round up, my brother has to go back too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So where do we draw the line where it's crazy? Because I have family members that just can't. They're in fear. I have friends.
No, it's real.
That's in fear.
It's real, and it's only certain segments. And Cliff, I want to connect with you to help out. To have a conversation.
I think I know Cliff too. Yeah. He calls in on my show, Bostonian Rap. I think Cliff. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So you guys have something.
Cliff, you know my heart. You know my heart.
Let's stay in touch, Cliff. Give me a call. Early part of next week. Let's sit down and figure out how we can help your families and the folks who are in the shallows, because I deal with a lot of that now. Trying to help these families who are afraid to even come out and get groceries or walk, and then it makes no sense, and it's all to involve fear. All right, thank you, sir.
We'll definitely link up next week.
Okay, sounds good. So, Rachel, we've got a couple of minutes. Michelle, stand by.
Can I just ask?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay,
quickly.
Miss Rachel, where are you from? And with this housing thing, the reason why I asked that, there is a housing problem in Boston until credit and income is no longer a factor, until we have a program specifically designed to keep Bostonians in Boston. We're not going to get housing for them. How do you feel on this, and where are you from?
Okay, so I've been upfront about that. I grew up here, and so we have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so.
I grew up here, and like I said, I want to explore a lot of different ways to, create paths to home ownership. But I think also, Michelle, what might make a big difference, and I've been upfront about this as well, is that we need to look for ways to generate revenue. And I actually presented plans to the city that got nixed.
Okay. We've got to hold it there on that, because I want to allow Rachel time to make her pitch to folks who are going to be voting on Tuesday, and also invite her back. Whatever way outcome, I think it's important to continue these type of conversations. Yes. So we'd love to have you back.
Thank you.
Continue to have this
robust conversation.
Absolutely, and that's healthy. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I really hope that people, first of all, come out and vote. That's first and foremost. But I do hope that people will give me one of their 4 votes for at-large. When there is more than 8 candidates on the ballot for at-large Boston City Council, the September preliminary serves to winnow it down to the 8. So the top 8 vote getters will go right through to November. There are 10 of us on the ballot. And so I'm looking for the opportunity to continue to make my case.
What number are you on the ballot?
I'm number 2. Okay. I'm number 2 on the ballot. I do not believe that we have. We're way beyond needing to have balance. We need to have new ideas. We need to have new blood. I mean, I'm out here hustling, and I think that other candidates are hustling.
And how do people get in contact with you? I'm just trying to make
sure. Yeah, more or less. But I think that I'm really out there working, and I think that some people are just kind of like, "Oh, I got this." And so I want to make my case to the people. You can reach me. I am on online. You can certainly reach me there. And I can also give out a number. 617-959-2617. And I have an email too. So I'm all over the place online. And then my email is RachelNicoleMeiselman@gmail.com.
Rachel Nicole Meiselman, thank you so much. Republican
Absolutely.
Candidate for at-large city council here in the city of Boston. Election is on Tuesday. Michelle Fergus, thank you so much for actually co-hosting again for us this morning. We appreciate you.
I don't know about co-host.
Yeah, you're a co-host. I made you.
I got to pray on
an honorary co-host. So
I appreciate your questions.
Appreciate your comments and your questions.
Oh, and Michelle, my family's been here for over 100 years, so this is very much home.
They came over on the Mayflower.
That, and I appreciate you showing up today, because it definitely says that they're paying attention. So
right. All right. We've got to go. You've been listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. We'll be back next week to analyze these elections. Until then, be blessed.
Thank you.
Money so long while your dog's in prison. While your baby mom's stripping, while your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'. You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the